Hey, we are back for more practice with two variable equations. I have some notes up at the top that would be helpful if you took a screenshot of, and then you could reference them as you're trying some of these on your own. The first set of notes at the top is the reminder about how two variable equations work. Two variable equations will have two quantities. One of those is going to end up being x, one of those is going to end up being y. If the sentence has one relationship, it's probably going to be a one-step equation with these four structures as possibilities. If there are two relationships, it'll probably be a two-step equation with these four structures as possibilities. Independent variables always go with x, and a really common example is time. Time is not always independent, but it is usually independent. Dependent variables go with y, and a really common example is money. Money is not always dependent, but it is usually dependent. And there's lots of other things that could be independent and dependent. These are just the two most common examples. Over here, I've listed the way my brain works when I'm solving these problems. I identify my quantities, and I know I'm going to get two of those. One will be independent, which then goes to x. So if I follow this arrow, one quantity is independent, and that's x. One quantity is dependent, and that's y. Once I've found my independent and dependent variables, I take a pause, and I go back and find the relationships. The relationships will help me find the equation, which then can help me solve the follow-up question. My variables also help me solve the follow-up question. So any of that stuff is yours to use. We're going to do the process where you pause the video and solve a problem, then you come back to see the solution. So please pause the video, solve problem 9, come back when you're ready to see the solution. All right, hopefully you are ready. Josiah sells three houses. I missed the number. Josiah sells 3 houses each month. Write an equation that shows how many houses she sells. Okay, so starting with step 1, I want to find my quantities. I see houses is a quantity and months is a quantity. Right off the bat, I'm thinking that month is probably going to be independent because that's an example of time. And I'm thinking that house is going to be dependent because that's the leftover one. Let's see if that makes sense. So if she sells 4 houses, it has no control over the independent variable months. If she sells 4 houses, it doesn't mean that extra months have passed. So months can't depend on houses. But each month that passes, she sells 3 houses. So months control the houses. The houses depend on the months. I think that makes sense. So my gut feeling was correct. That's step 1 and 2. I found my quantities and I've done my independent and dependent variables. Step 3 would be to drop them down into x and y. Make sure you're always reading carefully though, because maybe I'm going to try to trick you one day. Maybe one day I'm going to have let y equals in this spot and let x equals in this spot. So make sure that independent goes with x, dependent goes with y. All right, now the equation. In order to find the equations, I need to do step 4, which is to find the relationships. So I've done step 1, done step 2, done step 3. I need to find whatever relationships I can find. I see each, and that is it. So one relationship, it's probably going to come from the one-step equation box, the pink box up at the top. And each is multiplication or division, but I think it's going to be multiplication here. So I'm going to say y equals 3 houses each month, 3x. So I've knocked out steps 4 and 5, relationship and equation. Now the follow-up question I need to use my equation with, and I need to use what I defined x and y to be. It says if 18 months have passed, months goes with x. Months is the same thing as x in this problem. So that means I need to replace my x with 18. So it's going to be 3 times 18. So y equals, there's no algebra to do, 54. Y means houses. So 54 houses. All right, pause the video, try number 10, come back when you're ready to go over it. Hopefully you are ready to go over it. I'm going to go back to step 1, which is to find my quantities. I see minutes and days as my two quantities. Done step 1. Step 2, I need the independent and dependent variable. Now they are both time, and they can't both be independent. One of them has to be dependent. So I have to think about which one is more powerful, which one is more independent. He's choosing how many minutes to draw each day. That's like a made-up number. But he can't control how many days have passed. So I think days are independent because it's more powerful. The days that have passed take control over the situation. The minutes he's drawing isn't really in control of anything because 25 minutes is like a random number. It doesn't determine how many days have passed. So I'm going to say days are independent, minutes are dependent. That's step 2. Step 3 is to drop those down to X and Y. X is always independent, Y is always dependent. Step 4 is to find the relationships because this is going to help me with my equation. Like the last one, I really just see one word, each. So I bet my equation is going to be similar to my last one too. I always have Y equals first, and then 25x. A little smudge there. So this makes sense because if X is days, and here's my X, I have to multiply the number of days by 25 in order to get Y, which is how many minutes he has spent drawing. That makes sense. That's my relationships in my equation. And now for the follow-up question, I need my equation and I need to know what X and Y represent. So they say 1 week. Well, that's a little confusing because week is not one of my variables. If 1 week has passed, but I bet I can use that information to find how many days have passed. So I think week is actually going to be connected to days because 1 week is 7 days. Days goes with X. So I'm going to put in 25 times 7 days. And whatever I get is going to tell me what Y is. There's no algebra to do here. 25 times 7, you'd solve this however you feel comfortable. I got 175. And that goes with Y, which is minutes. So 175 minutes. And that makes sense because the question was how many minutes has he spent drawing? So I was right to put it in for X. Y was the one I needed to find. Last one on the page. Please pause and come back when you're ready to go over it. All right, so here we go. Each package of hot dog buns contains 8 buns. Write an equation to model the situation. So I want to make sure we can see everything. Step 1 is to find our quantities. I see package, or you could say package of buns, whatever you want, and buns. So that's my quantities. One will be the independent variable, one will be the dependent variable. This is kind of like the pencils in the package problems that we've done. You can't go to the store and say you want 9 buns. It is not an option. That's not how they're sold. So packages are in control, packages are independent, and buns are dependent. The number of buns you get is determined or depends on how many packages you buy. Step 3 is to drop those down to X and Y. Packages are independent, so it's X. Buns are dependent, so it's Y. Step 4 is to find my relationships. This is going to help me with the equation. Well, they're really making it easy on me. I see each again. Same relationship for the entire page. Each package of hot dog buns contains 8 buns. So I think it's going to be the exact same equation type we've been using. y equals 8x. You take the number of packages, which is x, here's x, multiply it by 8, and get y, the number of buns you get. That makes sense to me. So we did the relationship, we did the equation, and now the follow-up question. I need the equation for it. It says, if you have 24 people coming to your house for a party and each person will eat one hot dog bun, how many packages do you need? So although they've given me the information 24 people, they've also told me that each person eats one bun. So I really have the information 24 buns. Buns goes with y. So I'm going to replace y with 24. I have algebra to solve here. I need to divide both sides by 8. 3 equals x, and x had the unit of packages. So you need 3 packages. Sorry, I was looking away while I was writing. Let's try one more together on the next page. Go ahead and pause the video, try number 12, come back when you're ready to go over it. All right, hopefully you're ready to go over it. It says Emma was given 5 seashells. Each week she collects 3 more. Write an expression to show how many seashells she has. It could have been a tongue twister, but I made it through it. All right, so I have all this junk up here. I'm going to move it down because I can't scroll that far. Copy. And I'm going to paste it like this just because I'm going to cover up the next problem for now, but I'll have to move it later when I go to do that problem. All right, so step 1, quantities. I see seashells in weeks. Those are my 2 quantities. And I know that week is a measure of time, so it's probably going to be independent. Seashells, now I'm twisting it, is the leftover one, so it's going to be dependent. Let's make sure that makes sense. The number of seashells she collects depends on how many weeks have passed. Yeah, that makes sense. If she gets extra seashells, she can't change the number of weeks that have passed. Now I drop those down to x and y. Independent always goes with x. Independent always goes with y. Now in order to find my equation, I need relationships. I see each, but I also see given. So each has been in all of our problems so far, but given is a second relationship word because we have to do something with that 5. Otherwise, we would be ignoring the 5. So I think this one's going to come from the yellow box. 2 relationships. Y equals, let's see, she was given 5, so she starts off with 5, and then in addition to that, she gets 3 per week. So 5 plus 3x. That is like this first 2-step equation, but it's flipped. Addition's okay to flip. So you could have also said y equals 3x plus 5. Either way is fine. So now I have my equation and I need to do the follow-up question. I need the equation for that. And it says she has 26 shells. Shells is y. 26 equals 5 plus 3x. For a 2-step equation, you have to add or subtract first, then multiply or divide. So subtract 5. I get 21 equals 3x. I'm running out of room here, but that's all right. Then I can multiply or divide. I need to divide both sides by 3, and I get 7 equals x. X is weeks, so 7 weeks. And have I answered the question, how many weeks have passed? Yep,